Welcome to another top 10 worst cards to be released. In this video, we are going to take a look at the top 10 worst Metal Raiders cards ever to be released. If you haven't done so by the end of this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't done so already. So number 10 on this list is Gate Guardian. Now I know what you're thinking, why is one of the two secret rare cards on this set on the top 10 list of the worst cards? Well, if you actually take a look at this card, despite it being really iconic and amazing in the anime, which is, I'm guessing, partially the reason why it did get a secret rare printing on this set, if you take a look at it though, you'll see it's actually a pretty bad card. The effect says that this card cannot be normal summoned or set, and it must first be special summoned from your hand specifically by attributing one Sanga of the Thunder, one Kazagen, and one Suijin. So Sanga of the Thunder, Kazagen, and Suijin by themselves, while they're not great cards, they're actually okay because they do have a pretty good protection effect despite them all requiring 2 tributes to be on the field. So that's why those cards are not on this list whatsoever, because they're definitely not bad, they're just not great cards. However, in what situation would you ever want to put this card in the field? Just think about this. If you're actually doing a duel and you somehow, not that it's going to happen, but you somehow have those 3 cards on the field, what is going to make you think, oh my god, I should tribute my 3 high attack monsters that each have battle protection so I can summon this 3750 beatstick with no additional effect? Why would you ever make that play? You're just going -2 to summon one monster with higher attack and no protection in battle. Really? That's actually really bad. And that's ultimately the reason why this card is also really bad. Now, if this card said it can also be special summoned from the deck, not just a hand, it still wouldn't be a good card, but I don't think it would be here on this top 10 list of worst cards in Metal Raiders, because it would actually have a little more flexibility, but unfortunately, it doesn't have that. And number 9 goes to Yano Karu. Yano Karu is a water level 4 aqua monster with 900 attack and 1700 defense. And its effect says that when this card is changed from attack position to defense position, you get to place any number of cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck in any order you desire. So it's a little bit lower on this list with number 9 and not really up there because at least its stats aren't horrible. Now its attack is, but its defense, if you think back to mid 2002, I mean, I guess 1700 defense is not awful, right? It's okay, which is why it's not really up there like 1 or 2 spot, you know? But what's really weird about this card is just its really perplexing and baffling effect. I can't think of any reason why you would ever want to summon this card and then next turn you'd be like, oh my gosh, let me switch my card from attack to defense position so I can place all these cards in my hand into the bottom of my deck in any order I want. Take that, opponent. I'm just like, what? This makes no sense to me. Really mediocre stats, really horrible and really weird effect, and that combined with its attribute and type, which are not the most amazing thing back in 2002, and that's why this card is up there in the number 9 spot. The number 8 spot goes to Ocubeam. It's a light level 5 fairy monster with 1550 attack and 1650 defense. So it's a vanilla monster, and being a fairy type, doesn't really grant it any benefits, at least back in 2002. There are other cards that come pretty close to this card, such as Leo Gun, Hunter Spider, Bottom Dweller, but those cards have at least a little bit more attack than this card. There's also one card known as Morinfin, which actually has the same attack and worse defense. So you might be thinking, well, why isn't that card here instead of this one? Well, if you take a look at its type, it's actually Fiend. I think it's fair to say that Fiends overall have a lot more support and thus can be a little more viable. Not that you would ever want to put a Morinfin in your deck because of that, but I'm just saying, technically speaking, Morinfin would actually be better than Ocubeam because of its additional support. There is another tribute monster from this set that I do think is actually worse than this card, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Next up on this list is Petit Moth. Petit Moth is a very basic vanilla monster with only 300 attack and 200 defense, so as you can see, it's pretty awful. It's basically like the Skull Servant from Legend of Blue Eyes the White Dragon. But there is one thing that keeps it from not being at the very bottom of the list. It does actually have some support, albeit the support is not very good, at least it has some support compared to cards that don't have any. This card can be combined with Cocoon of Evolution, waiting 4 turns to bring out the Great Moth. It's obviously not a very consistently good combo, it never was, but again, at least the support is there, so yes, this card is bad, but it has support, which does save it a little bit from being too high up on this list. Sticking with the topic of vanillas, let's take a look at the next one on the list, Mega Thunderball. Mega Thunderball is just a very awkward card, with an attack stat ending with 50, being 750, in combination with it being a Thunder type. Obviously, this card sucks. Again, Petit Moth does actually have worse stats than this card, but I have to repeat myself again, that card has support, Mega Thunderball does not, especially it being a Thunder type. What kind of card had support being a Thunder type back in 2002? Nothing, I'll tell you that, nothing. Some of the best Thunder monsters back in Metal Raiders were Thunder Dragons going into Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon with the Polymerization, and even that wasn't that great of a combo. And lastly, I should also mention, what in the world made Konami think to make this a wind attribute in combination with the Thunder? It would make a little more sense if it was light, and technically would have a little more support as light is more viable than wind? I don't know. Whatever, moving on. The next one on this list is Launcher Spider. It's a level 7 fire attribute monster that's machine type with 2200 attack and 2500 defense. So this card goes as one of the worst 2 tribute monsters in this set. It was pretty iconic, especially in the anime, and a lot of people genuinely like the artwork, which I would agree, it's pretty badass, it's pretty cool. However, as a card itself, it's really not useful in any way whatsoever. It's fire attribute with machine, that's very awkward. Plus, its stats are absolutely horrendous for a level 7. During this time, there were actually already a few monsters with 2400 attack or more that were level 6 requiring only 1 tribute. Why would you want to tribute one more monster to summon a monster with only 2200 attack? It doesn't make any sense. So the next one on this list is Rabid Horseman. Rabid Horseman is a level 6 vanilla fusion monster that requires battle locks and Mystic Horseman as its materials. It only has 2000 attack, which is not the worst in the world when compared to other cards like, for example, Musician King, Cybersaurus, or Gilded D Knight, all of which also got released on this set. However, the one major difference between those cards and this one is the fact that those cards are at least viable targets for a card known as Instant Fusion, which is amazing in so many ways. Granted, these 3 aforementioned cards might not be the best targets for Instant Fusion, but they are at least an option. Rabid Horseman, however, being a level 6 monster, is not an eligible target for Instant Fusion, and when compared to any level 6 or higher fusion monster from Metal Raiders, Rabid Horseman is the worst. There are a few other cards such as Roaring Ocean Snake or Empress Judge that did come pretty close, but they have slightly better stats than this one, which is why this is the worst fusion monster to be released in Metal Raiders. Now let's take a look at the worst 1 tribute monster in this set, Trent. So Trent is a plant monster with 1500 attack and 1800 defense. Although the defense is not horrible, it's still outclassed by many other monsters that already had 2000 defense during this time when they were released. And when compared to other monsters that actually have worse attack than this one, such as Illusionist Faceless Mage, that one at least has a respectable 2200 defense, which wasn't actually a thing back then. Back then, 2000 defense was the peak defense for a level 4 lower monster. Eventually it became 2200, but not back in Metal Raiders days, so that card has an exception to it. Trent though, there's nothing fascinating about this card at all. Number 2 on this list goes to the Cheerful Coffin. The Cheerful Coffin is just simply another one of those cards that you just have to think about why in the world Konami thought it was a good idea to make this card. I have to go back to the scenario again. Why would you ever want to use this card and be like, alright, I'm gonna annihilate my opponent. I activate Cheerful Coffin. I get to discard 3 monster cards from my hand into the graveyard. Now yes, going forward now, there are actually some good archetypes that would actually benefit from this, such as Dark World or Fable. I completely get that. But back then in 2002, when those things didn't exist, and really the whole idea of Konami introducing this concept of a card that lets you discard up to 3 monsters, like, just why? Why would you ever want to use this card to go up to -4 actually? That's ridiculous, yeah. This card is just so bad and really is only useful in a few very specific and niche archetypes that actually benefit from discarding your own cards. And finally, the worst card in Metal Raiders to be released is Larvae Moth. Larvae Moth is an Earth level 2 insect monster with 500 attack and 400 defense. You know when you decide to run a Great Moth deck, Not that you ever would, but think hypothetically. You have a Great Moth deck, you have your Petit Moth, your Cocoon of Evolution, 2 turns have passed, and then you're like, oh shit, I think my opponent is going to destroy my Cocoon of Evolution next turn. You know what? To protect myself, I am, instead of waiting for Great Moth or perfectly ultimate Great Moth, instead, it's the second turn, I am going to bring out Larvae Moth. Yes, Larvae Moth. A monster with 200 more attack than Petit Moth, and 1600 less defense than Cocoon of Evolution. The entire concept of this card really makes absolutely no sense to me. This card, you actually cannot normal summon or set it whatsoever. You can only special summon it by offering Petit Moth on the second turn when it's equipped with Cocoon of Evolution. Now yes, Great Moth and Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth are both bad cards if you're trying to summon them this way, because waiting 4 turns and 6 turns, that's probably never going to happen. But at least those cards have good stats, as in it makes sense why you would want to wait that long to bring out a powerful boss monster. Larvae Moth though, 2 turns for a 500 attack insect monster that's level 2? Why would you ever be like, oh yeah, I'm going to wait 2 turns and tribute my 2 monsters here that I have to bring out Larvae Moth? This makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, and even back then, when I first got Metal Raiders, I was like, what is this? Why would you ever want to play this? You know, even as a kid, who's generally pretty stupid when it came to knowing combos of Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, let's be honest here, you know, all of us were kind of to that extent. But even as a kid, I would look at this and be like, there's no way I can use this card effectively. What trash did I just get? Yeah, this card is by far the worst card of Metal Raiders, and one of the worst cards ever to be released in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just so bad. Alright, so that was the top 10 list of the worst Metal Raiders cards of all time. So as always, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, because hey, you know, it helps both parties. Leave a comment on what you think of this video, and other recommendations you also want to see for the future, really any Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos in general. So, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye everyone.